What's that? That won't do. Can't attack anymore. Not to mention if someone were to come flying at me with a kick right now, I wouldn't be able to dodge it. Well, if you're anything like my ex, you'll realize that it's not working out. Well, good news. I have a solution. Not for the girlfriend thing. Your stamina, your ki, it doesn't have to suffer any longer, and I'm going to show you how. This video will go over the best ways you can manage your ki so you can stop bruising your fingies, wondering why your attacks stop coming out. Those games have a stamina system, which is very easy to understand. Nioh has a stamina system that can make a lot of players feel like the game is way too hard, or they simply don't understand something. But don't be put off by that, it's a lot simpler than it seems. Basically, whenever you're doing a combo, or even a single attack, you use up your ki. But some of that used up ki can be restored. It shows up as a red bar that will gradually fill up with ki that you can then do a ki pulse. And just like that, you get a bunch of it back. Also, you don't have to worry about darting your eyes between your ki bar and the giant dude holding an axe above your head. Your character will actually have a bunch of light surrounding them, showing you your ki pulse timing. At first glance, it seems like you just want a ki pulse when the bar is full, but you will quickly learn in the middle of the battle that it's oftentimes better to just settle for some of the refund rather than all of it. This way you can get to your next action sooner. Say for example, you're not a big fan of getting punched in the face and you want to avoid getting hit. If you were to dodge or block while your ki pulse is filling, you'll lose the opportunity and instead lose all of your ki you just spent. You might be thinking, well, what if I just choose to get punched in the face? First off, the hell is wrong with you? Second, getting hit also removes the ki pulse. So basically, it all boils down to settling for partial refunds of your ki, rather than always trying to get a perfect pulse like it's some kind of rhythm game. It is damn satisfying though, isn't it? That being said, there is a skill you can find that'll make it so dodging no longer ends your ki pulse. On top of that, it'll even do the ki pulse for you. As you can imagine, having the ability to dodge an attack just after your combo is finished and not having your ki be as punished is pretty significant. The skill is called Running Water, and it's obtained from the first main Crucible mission. It's in a chest being guarded by an axe skeleton, and I'll show you a quick route to getting it. So we went over the basics of ki pulse, but there's still a ton of scenarios you might find yourself in. Maybe you did get hit during your combo, or you simply forgot to hit the ki pulse and now you're struggling for ki. So here's some tips on what you can do in those situations. One method you can do is switching to your ninja stance and just throwing projectiles from a safe distance while you wait for your ki to return. Another great way to manage your ki is using your spirit skill. This can be activated by holding down the block button and doing a light attack once your spirit gauge is filled. This attack will not only allow your ki to recover, but it does decent damage and it acts as a sort of animation cancel. It's incredibly useful for whenever you're running too low on ki and still want to push out damage while simultaneously recovering your ki so you can just go right back into combat. Sometimes you can even use it just to get that last bit of HP off of an enemy instead of dealing with all the other mechanics. Also, this skill can be used during the exhausted state, which happens whenever you take damage with 0 ki remaining or when a blocked attack exceeds the amount of ki you used to block it. Having the spirit skill in these situations can be super helpful since the last thing you want is to be unable to move, gasping for air, while the boss is just about to slam you into paste. So having a get out of jail free card is super nice. Another way to attack without using ki is using your arts proficiency. This gauge is located on the right inside your stances. It will fill up as you deal damage, block and parry attacks. Early on you'll probably end up using this unintentionally, and that's fine. In order to activate it once the gauge is full, you can do either a martial arts skill or a heavy attack. Once activated, it will run out almost immediately unless you follow up with another heavy attack or martial art. The reason this assists with your ki is because the first attack you use to activate your arts will use up 0 ki, and any follow-up attacks that use your arts for the rest of its duration will use up less ki than normal. It also increases the damage you deal based on your arts proficiency power stat. So if this sounds interesting to you, I'd highly recommend messing around with it and seeing what kind of sweet combinations you can do. Eventually you'll unlock skills in your samurai tree called FLUX 1 and FLUX 2. These give you an increase in ki recovery as well as bonus ki whenever you switch stances during your ki pulse. Basically, if you did an attack in, say, your high stance, you can ki pulse by switching to your mid or low stance, and this will reward you with extra ki. Not only that, and this has been a thing in all the Nioh games, but you can gain even more value out of FLUX by performing what's known as a double FLUX. It works the same way, but now if you were to attack in, say, your high stance, you can actually ki pulse to your low stance, then your mid stance, and you get twice the benefit. This works from any stance, so long as you switch to 2 different stances than the one you started with. And you don't need to press the ki button multiple times, you can just hold it. Then press the button to switch to each of the other 2 stances one after the other. On controller, I usually just glide my thumb across the 2 buttons I wish to press, so you don't accidentally hit them at the same time. If you've never done it before and you're on controller, just start from any stance. Again, for this example, we'll do high stance, attack a couple times, then shortly after, hold right bumper and just glide your thumb across A and X, or X and square if you're on PlayStation. Whatever your low and mid stance buttons are. This doesn't necessarily need to be pressed as fast as possible. There is some leniency for sure. So if you are struggling to maybe hit the top and then bottom button in one motion, I wouldn't worry too much about it being perfect. And for anyone that feels this is just too uncomfortable for them to do, don't forget you still get a benefit out of switching to 1 stance instead of 2. This is just a trick that gives you even more of a bonus. Doing a FLUX with a full amount of ki pulse will naturally give you the full refund plus some more. But as I mentioned earlier, ki pulsing for the full amount isn't exactly ideal. So instead, we're looking at this differently in that we ki pulse early, we will still net a decent chunk of ki instead of losing as much as we were before. Last but not least, here's some extra tips to help you understand your ki a bit better. The speed at which your ki pulse fills up will match the amount you used. So if you use an enormous amount of ki and there's a giant bar of red that can be refilled, it will shoot up super quickly to match the amount spent. The reason this is nice to know is because you do want to use your ki pulse early, but not so early that it's practically instant. Even waiting a tiny bit is enough to have it shoot straight up and get more bang for your buck. Another tip is that some of your combos will eat away at the total amount of recoverable ki. Basically, when you do a basic light attack combo, the max amount of recovery isn't too harsh, and even the same applies for a heavy attack combo. But when you mix in different types of attacks within a combo, the max amount recoverable gets severely cut. It will depend on the weapon and the type of combo you do, but this just takes some experimenting to figure out which ones might not be the best combination to string together. Even more importantly, there are some combos that will totally delete your ki pulse and start another. These are mostly tied to martial arts skills and won't always be the case, but in some weapon skill trees, you'll see things like the ability to do a unique heavy attack in the middle of your light attack combo. These are usually the ones to look out for, as they will oftentimes be the cause of your ki pulse resetting. These aren't necessarily bad skills to use, as they still provide benefits in their own way. Sometimes it's for utility or the purpose of mobility, and other times it's because of the sheer amount of damage. Whatever the case, it's just a good idea to identify which ones might have that cost and then just determine when best to use them. It's been fun. I do hope you guys learned something here. If you did, a like would be greatly appreciated, as it does help out a ton. And if you haven't already and want to see more Nioh content or guides, OP builds, and whatnot, consider subscribing. We'd love to have you. Later.